in the heart space? And what is the real essence of the heart? And how can we operate from that space? And what does that space look like and feels like? And how we can optimize the experience of life through being in that heart space. And so today's topic that I've been, every week I think and meditate on a particular theme. And this week I've been meditating on this tolerance, because I've been communicating with a few of the yogis who are having some struggles in their life. And this is the most loud energy that keeps coming at me. Tolerance. And I keep sharing those realizations that are provided for us in the wisdom text and the yoga text, that gives us very in-depth understanding of this essential spiritual principle that can completely change the experience and the way we communicate and relate to the world. So I wanted to ask our own Karina in Atlanta, Georgia, because we were just doing an ecstatic kirtan on Thursday. And she's just recovering from some physical difficulty, discomfort. And she was just saying how this is a big one for her. And I asked her, can you please tell me, why is it such a big thing for you to be tolerant and patient? Patient we did last week. So this week we're discussing this tolerance. And she shared a beautiful story. And I said, can you please share it with everyone? And then we can move on with the discussion. So Karina, it's all yours. Oh, by the way, she has one of the most incredible yoga studios in the state of Georgia. And I think you can, Ebony, would you confirm that?
Yes, I can confirm that. I actually teach at her studio, the Giving Tree Smyrna, and from the moment you walk in, you just feel the connection, and she has a way of welcoming you in. The energy and space is beautiful, just as she is. I'm always grateful for her presence and her energy and her words of wisdom. I appreciate her wholeheartedly. I can't express it. It's beyond gratitude. And it's just her being, recognizing being in everything else and everyone else.
Thank you. Thank you, Ebony, for sharing. So now I'll let you share your story.
Hare Krishna, thank you. And thank you, Ebony. I didn't pay her to say all that, I promise.
Whatever comes from the heart, you should always let it out.
Yes, she is a beautiful soul. We're happy to have her too. We're so blessed. Yes, so as soon as the word tolerance was mentioned, and we were speaking about, how to be tolerant through difficulties, like I'm such a physical person, and being told not to do anything physical has been difficult, but it reminded me of quite a funny story. I think it'll make you all smile. So it's all about a small village somewhere, maybe India or something like that. I don't even know where this story came from. But it's about a guru who everyone respects in their village, and he's very virtuous, and he's managed to really train himself in all things yogic, apart from he knows he needs to work on his tolerance. The smallest thing can trigger him, and he's just like, I need to do something about that. So he says to the villagers, give me enough food and water to survive for 30 days. I'm going to go into this cave, and I want you to barricade me in there. Do not let me out. No harm will come to me. I need to meditate on tolerance. After 30 days, open all the barricades, and I will have overcome this problem. So 30 days passes, and he's been busy meditating on this. And he comes out, and all the villagers have turned out to see what he's saying about tolerance. And they asked him, and he said, yes, I think I have mastered it. Doesn't matter what happens from this day forward, I will be tolerant in all aspects. And a little boy ran up to him and was tugging on his clothes, saying, Guruji, Guruji, have you really managed to be tolerant no matter what? And Guruji looks down, yes, my son, I am very tolerant of everything. And he was about to move away, and the little boy again runs after him, Guruji, Guruji, are you really tolerant? He says, yes, yes, my son, I have mastered tolerance. And the little boy says, but Guruji, really? Are you really, really, really tolerant? And the Guru goes, I told you, didn't I? I told you I'd mastered tolerance. And then goes, oh my goodness, turns around, walks back in the cave and tells the villagers he needs another 30 days. It's constant work, constant work. Do we ever master anything, especially tolerance? It's a cute story. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I love that story. Thank you so much for
You're
sharing.
welcome.
Yes. So now we're going to dive a little deeper as to this story and why the sage goes back into the cave for another 30 days to practice tolerance. So this quality of tolerance is a quality that is very, very, very deep. And we're going to try and see how deep we can get into it within this 30-minute time slot that we have. So let me first start by saying that tolerance is something that you don't have a choice. Because being in this material world, we are continuously going to be subjected to some difficulty or some adversity in life. Having a human body means we have to endure. And I was thinking, I'm going to be speaking about tolerance. I wonder what the dictionary says about tolerance. And the dictionary says that tolerance is to endure difficulties even though you're constantly being subjected to it. And one of my teachers, he explains that tolerance means to not retaliate and not respond when provoked. And I thought that was even a little next level, because living in this material world, we are constantly being provoked by something or someone. If it is not something or someone, then something deep inside. So we're going to dive a little deep into this, because it is, if we don't have a choice and we have to tolerate it, how to do it consciously and how to see the beauty in it. You may notice that in this world, we have three sources of pain. In the yoga text we study the three sources of pain. And first one that is common to all of us is adidaivik. That means pain that is caused by natural disasters that we have no control over. And whether you like it or not, there is going to be high temperatures. It's going to get hot. It's going to get cold. If you live in places like Hawaii or Maui, then, year round, you have perfect temperature, but there's wildfires, there's other natural calamities that we may be subjected to. So it does not matter where we are going to have to deal with the possibility that nature will have its way, and we have the opportunity to get out of the way or stay in the way and have to endure. So this is called adidaivik. And the second one is called adi bhautik. Bhautik means that is pain that is caused by others. We will notice in this world, you're not alone. You're surrounded by many, many other beings, your neighbors. Even when you move far away into the woods, you'll still find someone that will cause you some difficulty. So when others cause us difficulties, those are called adibhautik, pain that is caused by others. And there is the third source of pain that we experience in this world is called adi atmik. Atmik means pain that is caused from inside. So these are the three sources of pain that we understand from the yoga text. For me, I have a serious problem with tolerance. I had the quality of impatience. I want everything yesterday. Not today, but I wanted yesterday. It was so funny. I remember as a child, my mother, I had very little time with her, only up until I was about 5 years old. And then I never saw her again. And then when I was in the monastery, she had departed the world. But beautiful memories of my mother was that my impatience and tolerance, and her tolerance and my impatience. And we were young and hungry, and we were so hungry, she would be out milking the cows. And we would be there with our bowls, waiting for her to just give us food now. And all the kids would be there with their bowls while she was milking the cows. And I remember we would just say, "Mommy, we're hungry, we're hungry." And she would just smile at all of us and take the milk that while she was milking the cows, and she'd just straight put it into the bowl and we'd just drink the raw milk. And I remember how tolerant she was and how I was so intolerant. So this was impatient. And my tolerance and patience was not one of my strengths growing up in the monastery. So it was extremely hard for me to tolerate being told what to do, waking up in the morning with a loud bell at 2 a.m. So these were difficulties that I had to tolerate year after year, year after year. And eventually I started to realize, some little resemblance, some residue of this quality of patience and tolerance. So this tolerance is considered to be one of the greatest virtues. It is the quality of the soul. When we operate from the level of the soul, of pure consciousness, of Atman, the self, that is the nature of who we truly are. We are the most patient when we're the most tolerant being that there is. So now, if that is who I am, why is it that I'm having such a struggle? And the answer is really simple, that I'm really far away from who I truly am. And the further away I am from who I truly am, then tolerance becomes more and more difficult. We become more and more intolerant. So I wanted to, there's beautiful stories in the yoga text because they really, really emphasize. But I want to share this meditation I had. This great saint, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he came to this world 537 years ago. And he had a few disciples. And those disciples became really, really eminent and powerful in their ability to transfer and disseminate this spiritual knowledge of pure love. And in his whole entire life, this great saint, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he only wrote 8 verses. And out of those 8 verses, on the third verse, he explains this quality of tolerance. He actually says that when the day comes in your life when you can become more tolerant than a tree, then you'll be able to rejoice the ultimate, the highest pleasure of divine connection in the heart. And I was thinking, really? Come on. So as a kid, I was thinking, this is too much. Then I started to meditate. How is tree tolerant? And then one of his disciples' disciple, one of his student, Krishnadas Kaviraj is his name. He writes this beautiful wisdom text called the Sri Caitanya Charitamrita. And there he explains what this means. And he gives two qualities. And then, of course, many other sages give so many more qualities of a tree, how the tree is so tolerant. And he explains that the tree has no complaints. It tolerates when we cut it down. Imagine in the world how many trees in the world are actually being cut down to serve us. Everything that you see in this United States of America, you don't see the green trees, but you will see the presence of the tree. From the paper we write on, to the toilet, to the room that we stay in, to the roof that we live under, to the floor that we stand on, to the walls that protect us from the elements. We are continuously being sheltered and protected from this tree. And yet, the tree never complains. Someone may say, if the tree could speak, of course it would complain. But the sage is explaining that nature has its own way of communicating. And they have their own way of communicating with one another. And there could be something that they could do. But they explain that the tree naturally has this mood of absolute tolerance. And when you take this tree and you burn it, this tree still does not complain. Not just you cut it. Imagine someone cuts you off when you're speaking to them. Anytime in life, whenever we are interacting with the world, there are so many people that cut us off by not accepting what we say, not believing what we say. Somehow or other, they're always making sure that they know better than you. And so this element of cutting is happening in our lives every single day. And how do we respond? If someone ever questions my ego, I'm like, really? You really want to go there? That's our response. I mean, Veda, are you sure? You really want to try and insult me and try and cut me? And we're constantly making sure that, you're not going to go there. But the tree does not complain. And this is something that happens in our life every single day, that someone will come into our life, will try to cut us down, but put us down, and we immediately defend. And the second quality of the tree that he explains, Krishnadas Kaviraj, is that the tree, when you burn it, it does not complain. Burn means to really take you out of your form, to take you out of your existence, turn you into an ash, completely alter your personality. And still the tree does not complain. So the nature of the tree, the reason it does not complain is because the tree is deeply rooted in its connection to the source of the tree, which is connected to the earth. And then think about this. I remember as a young novice monk where we grew up, there were a lot of fruit trees. The tree provides fruits for us to be nourished. And guess what? When you just throw a stone at the tree, what does the tree give? The tree gives the fruit. If someone throws a stone at you, what will you give them? You'll pick up that stone and you'll throw it back at them so you can try and hurt them. But the tree, when you throw a stone at the tree gives you a fruit. And this is what I realized as a little monk in the monastery, because we had these mango trees and we didn't want to climb the mango tree, so we just pick up rocks and throw it at the tree, and the mango would drop, or the guavas. And we would just always be throwing stones at the trees, and the tree gives us something very delicious. This is what a tree is. That even though going through so much, and it is continuously serving us in every possible way. And so this is why Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, this great saint, he explains that this quality of tolerance is the real essence whereby you will have the deepest experience, spiritual experience, ever accessible to the human being. So, how do we practice this tolerance? So, few steps. One is, we cannot win this fight in this world. We have pain, adidaivik, natural disasters, other beings, and then pain that comes from within, which we're going to get into. So the principle is not to fight the force that is way bigger than you, and it's a universal force, is teaching us the importance of not fighting and not resisting what is coming our way. And the principle that is given is anytime there is a resistance that is coming our way, we go deep into our heart. I remember when we were learning jujitsu, is one of the martial arts that we were taught in the monastery. And there was aikido classes, jujitsu classes, and our teacher used to always tell us, he says, when there is force coming at you, don't stand in the way. Move out of the way. A step back. Get out of the way. Learn to respect the force and the power of those kicks. I remember I had to spar this great kung fu black belt person, and I was just a little jiu-jitsu guy, and I was skinny, frail, and this person was very strong and very fast. He was doing these airborne kicks and everything, and I remember my teacher's instructions: don't ever stand in the power that is greater than you, because you will break. It'll destroy you. Whenever there is force, you always step back to you. What is your strength? And so I just continuously, he was throwing kicks and we were just going around in the ring, and I just kept running from him. And it was such a funny, it's a funny match, because he was coming full force and I just kept running in the ring, and he just kept running, and then he just kept chasing me, and I just kept running. And after a while, he got tired of throwing all his energies. And then he comes to the ground because, grappling. And that's where my strength was, like connected on my back, and so we had this beautiful duet where, by staying in my power, I was able to tap him out. And the principle that I always engaged in it was the principle of not fighting. So in this world, you will notice we are constantly fighting. we have to fight our boss, we have to fight, otherwise you won't get very far in life. You hear motivational speakers, you gotta fight for your right, you gotta fight, 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 fight. But where is this tolerance? Because we are not situated in our heart, we're not able to practice this tolerance. So this is one of the principles in dealing with this mature world, that we are constantly being subjugated in pain by these three sources. And how do we respond to that? What is our relationship with it? How do we go with it? How do we flow with it? So the principle is to stand in the reality of who we are. To understand that in this world, we are one of those living entities. And the reality of that is that we are part and parcel of the divine. And this cosmic creation, we're simply a part of it. We're not the source of this creation, we are part of this creation. So this consciousness of being part of something and not being the whole, but we are part of the universal family, then there is an immediate feeling of love and unity within oneself. This unity and diversity comes when we realize the reality of who we truly are and what is truly happening in this world. And how is that possible? That is possible through observation. When we observe the world, sometimes we only observe it with the eyes and our mind. And so the way we're able to observe the world, as a yogis would recommend, to see the world with our three-dimensional existence. Not just your faculties of sense, of hearing and sight, smell, taste, and touch. That is still limiting, because there's 5 sensory faculties that we interact with the world. They're still very limiting. And then they go to the mind and we see the world with our mind. And then we see the world with our intelligence that we rationalize. But there will come a day when we see the world with our heart, with the eyes of the heart. And that is when we are the true observer of what is happening in this world. And when we become the true observers of what is happening in this world, then we can truly absorb in this divine, loving relationship that we have in the heart. And that is what the heart space, and that is where tolerance comes from. So this tolerance is a natural to who we are, because that is what maturity means. Maturity means that we have the ability to tolerate all the pain and suffering and everything that comes our way. That is maturity. In spirituality, you will see it's a very common thing amongst the sages and yogis. They are always patient, and you feel like they have too much time in their hands. How is that even possible? Because they realize this time is not theirs to have. So they're patient and tolerant are just natural functioning level of consciousness of those who are mature in their spiritual practice. So that is another quality of someone who is truly practicing tolerance. Their maturity is visible through their practice of tolerance. Another meditation I had about tolerance is how tolerance, if you practice, it becomes a shield of protection for you. Everyone needs protection, guardrails. When you drive in the United States, you'll notice if there's a cliff, there is a guardrail so your car doesn't flip over and goes down the mountain. So there are guardrails to protect you from falling off. So this patience, if we practice this quality of patience, what we're doing is we're guarding our true, soft, kind, compassionate nature of who we truly are. And so this becomes a shield between your body and the mind and your intelligence and you, the supreme consciousness of the self, and your relationship with the supreme consciousness, the divine self. So when we practice this patience, you'll realize you're not going to go crazy. If someone says something, you're not going to retaliate. You immediately have this practice of patience so that you don't start burning up and burning all relationships, because you will notice that patience is one of the biggest glue that holds relationships together. When we are patient with one another, what does they say in English? Patience is not golden, but they say something about, I don't know, there is an English saying that talks
Patience
about
is a virtue.
patience is a virtue, yes. But there was one more that I was thinking of. Those who are patient, something about, they attain the greatest gift. So this patience in relationships, you may notice that if we are patient in relationship, the relationship only gets more richer and it becomes more and more joyful and more relishable relationships, because it's a very powerful spiritual glue. And that is why we practice in spiritual life, because we are trying to make sure that we connect with ourselves and the divine in such a way that that relationship becomes so deep that we're always in that spiritual zone of a divine relationship between the self and the supreme self. So this was another meditation I had, that patience is literally like a wall that you can put, but this wall protects you from external influences and enables you to have a deeper connection with others. And I think many of you may have experienced how when we're patient with something, when you get an injury or when you are having a tough time with your mind or things are not working out your way, if you just pause and become a little patient and give it time, you will start to notice things will unravel. The tolerance gives you time to reflect and divine to unravel in your life, and you will be able to then have a more clearer vision as to the direction of life that you must go in. And this is another quality of tolerance. So tolerance is another component, is tolerance teaches us balance in life. Many of us, when we are operating just from the mind, I feel something, I want it, because the function of the mind is only three: thinking, feeling, and willing. These are the three functions of the mind. So if we are constantly just operating on the mind, on the mental platform, or mana maya kosha, as you know, those of you who are practicing yoga, that one-dimensional operation, it doesn't work, because we're multi-dimensional beings. We exist on multiple layers of consciousness, and we can pick and choose. So being in this material world, in the Gita, we understand and we study that there is three modes of material nature. The sattvas, mode of goodness, there's mode of passion, and there's mode of ignorance. And in the mode of goodness, that means your tolerance is when it's coming from the heart. That you're having a very zoomed out view of everything in this world and everything that is happening in this world. You have a very zoomed out view, and that is mode of goodness. And then in the mode of passion is where you want to try and take control over things. I decide that I want to be tolerant of this and intolerant of that. You will see in the United States of America, they call the liberals and the, what is it called? You know, there's two groups, two fractions.
Conservatives.
Conservatives. And they have their own views on what they should tolerate and what they shouldn't tolerate. You know, some of the conservative views on what they're willing to tolerate and what they're not is different than, and the liberals think the conservatives are intolerant. And the conservatives think the liberals are they lost it, you know? They're just going down the tube. And they both are having this big war in this nation because neither of them are tolerant of the other. And that is in the mode of passion. Mode of passion means when tolerance is based on your subjective view of the world. That is tolerance in the mode of passion. Tolerance in the mode of goodness is when we see the big picture, the divine creation, the universal picture. And tolerance in the mode of passion is when we are seeing and creating our own moral grounds and moral standings of what is right and what is wrong based on our subjective experience. And then there's tolerance in the mode of ignorance is no tolerance. Very little tolerance is there in mode of ignorance. Whatever, I'll only tolerate when it's just what satisfies me and me alone. That is all I will tolerate. Meaning the material self. We're talking about the senses and the mind. So this is what the yoga texts are saying about this practice of tolerance. Now, I wanted to just share my 3 steps on how I recommend people to practice tolerance. One is practicing tolerance by acknowledging your nature of intolerance. What areas of your life are you intolerant? And actually acknowledging that, because most of us, we don't think that we are intolerant, that we are the most tolerant person. So number 1 is to acknowledge. And number 2 is to take responsibility for it. Because yoga understands that if we want to be authentic and real, we have to take responsibility for it. That yes, I have this issue of intolerance. It's not Liz's problem, it's my problem. I am impatient and intolerant, you know, because when I go at the yoga retreat, she does not have the yoga mats pulled out and is not laid out properly. And, you know, she should have done this. It's all, you know, her fault. So taking responsibility means, yes, I'm part of the community. I should be there to assist Liz to do this instead of me blaming it all on her. So then acknowledging and taking responsibility is a very important quality. And then the 3rd step I say is the step of surrender. Surrender is really understanding that in the greater scheme of things, what is happening in our lives and what we need to tolerate is actually a very, very small and minuscule in comparison to greater scheme of things. So these are 3 ways that I personally practice tolerance. So I wanted to share that with you. I have gone over time. I normally like to only speak for 30 minutes. Radha Priti, are you with us? I know I like to pick on you to share because you like to practice this. Okay, I don't think she's here.
Hey guys.
Oh, there she is.
Hey Veda. That was so beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
What's share on tolerance?
Yeah, I was thinking of this story I have a couple stories. One's an embarrassing story. I don't know that we'll have time for that one. I'll start with the profound one, and if we have time, I can share the embarrassing story. But I was going through something, and I was talking to Rana Swami about it. And I was involved in this situation that I was just really struggling with. And I was kind of telling him all about it, you know, for like an hour, maybe. I was just like going on and on. And he's like, so what's your question for me? And I'm like, well, you know that story where like there's a scorpion in the water and the sage wants to move the scorpion to the shore, and the scorpion keeps biting the sage, but the sage just doesn't feel it and keeps moving him to the shore. Like, how do we become like the sage and not feel the scorpion's bite? And he's like, well, the sage felt the scorpion's bite. He's like, it's not that the sage didn't feel it. He just had deeper realizations. And he said, you've moved the scorpion to the river, to the shore. You can let go of it now. And it was kind of like an aha moment for me, like this thing of tolerance. Like, yes, like I think we all need to figure out what our own definition is and where our own lines are. And sometimes tolerance can be removing yourself from a situation when you know it's too much for you to handle. And that was a really profound lesson for me, because I tend to do that. I tend to try to be places I'm not, or tend to try to like force a situation. And it was like, wait, I'm not there yet. I'm not equipped to handle this. And better that I recognize that and I kind of remove myself. And in that way, I'm practicing tolerance by knowing where I am and not engaging further than I have the skill set for. And I've thought about that since. And I try to, like, when I choose, you know, what I get involved in or how I get involved, I really try to reflect on that. Like, okay, how much can I actually handle? Because it's not something you can force. You can't just say, okay, I can handle all of this. I love to do that, but it's like not realistic, you know?
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, Balaram, share your reflection and realization on tolerance, because I know that when Balaram joined the monk mode ashram, you know, he had to give up a lot of luxury and freedom. And he's, you know, he's just fully engaged in service, and he has to tolerate a lot. To live with a group of guys from different backgrounds, different experiences, it's tough. So Balaram, you want to share about your story on tolerance?
6 guys in a house, what's there to tolerate? It's heaven. It smells good, it's orderly. Everyone always does exactly what they should do. It's
Those are all jokes, by the way, because it's the opposite of that.
I mean, yeah, this topic's dear to me because I was especially struggling with tolerance because I grew up in a very rigid environment where there was a right way to do everything. And so it was very clear what was right and what was wrong. It was like there was a right way to put your shoes when you come inside. There was a right way to walk through the house. There was a right way to talk to somebody, right way to do everything. So, but the thing that I wanted to mention is that, like, I thought tolerance was just not reacting. Tolerance meant when someone does something, you don't, you know, respond with anger. And I found that's not enough, because if you haven't accepted it, then it's not really tolerance, because like I found myself getting so angry because I was like, I'm tolerating something, but why should I tolerate? I wasn't, it's another big topic, right? Like that line between what do we tolerate and when do you take action to, you know, we're responsible for things in this world. So we have to serve. So if somebody comes in and just starts making a mess of your house, you know, is it tolerance to just sit there and just, yes, Hari Om, yes, thank you? Like, that's not right, I think. And so when I was younger, I would just sit and watch people just come and just destroy my house. And I thought it was tolerant of me to just namaste at them. But how long can I do that before either at the least I'm thinking this person is not a good person, or later when I go to their house, I'm gonna like have that urge to dish it out, back at them. So I think like the thing for me was I look back on my upbringing now, like so strict, not strict, but just so many rules. And it's a beautiful thing. Like when a group of people who live together all wash their dishes every single time they use the dishes, it's a beautiful thing. Like who has not fought over dishes with their roommates? No one in this world. It's like the number one issue with roommates. And it's beautiful to work together really well. It's so beautiful. But I think the point is when you find yourself in an environment when that's not the case, it's like, what do you make out of it? And Veda often talks about making a kitchery out of things. It's like cooking. It's like you have this ingredient and you thought you were going to make spaghetti, and then someone hands you something that doesn't go in spaghetti, and you're thinking, well, what do I do with this? So we have to find a way to use that ingredient. And I think having that acceptance was a big change for me, and not getting angry. But I'm still trying to find a line. It's still a dance. Like, what do you do when people give you things and you're like, this isn't what I want? Like,
we may have to have a lot more talks on this topic because it's actually a very deep topic. I
yeah.
agree with you. It's when I was thinking to share about it, I was like, where do I start and where do I end? Because there's like, it's our daily reality.
One last thing I'll say is that I notice it a lot of it comes from that it's defending. Like I'm trying to defend something. I want the kitchen clean, and when you come in and leave dishes, I'm defending my clean kitchen. And so I'm coming after you with that energy. And so it helped me isolate the conflict to say, this is why I'm feeling this way, right? It comes from a place of desire, and I have to separate my personal desire from if I have some responsibility to protect, because in some cases that's my service is to protect. So being able to separate.
Thank you, Balaram. Our time is up, but Durga Devi has her hands up. Do you all mind if we take her share? Okay. Okay, we'll do a quick one, Durga Devi. I didn't want to hold people up.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I just when Balaram was talking, I just had a question about that, because I think what he's also saying is how to tolerate and how to set a healthy boundary. So yeah, maybe we can discuss this another time. When you tolerate anything, you let everything come, or does it have something to do with healthy boundaries or not? I'm confused about that.
Okay, so let's do this. Let me give you a question for this week, and we'll regroup next week on this topic. The question is, an event or someone in your life that you have to tolerate, even though you really do not want to tolerate that person, you want to put them in their place, but you have been tolerating them for whatever amount of time, years or decades. Sometimes we tolerate people for decades, and we're not tolerating, we're just avoiding them. And we're suppressing it. And then it's just like one day when you see them, you just want to like strangle them, but you can't. So you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. So think about that person, think about that situation this week, and that's going to be your fun assignment, something to think about. And next week when we regroup, we'll dig a little deeper on this tolerance, because I'll spend a little bit of my heart to dig a little deeper into how to make things practical. And Keshavacharya Prabhu, this is also going to be your assignment, so you're going to help me next week to dig a little deeper into this practice of tolerance, because it's really deep. It's really deep. I didn't even tell you the crazy, amazing stories of tolerance of, Haridas Thakur, who's being whipped in 22 marketplaces.
But that's my challenge. Like, tolerance is my weakness, so you're putting me on spot.
Perfect. I want to get you while you're weak. I want to get you exactly where you're weak, so we have something to work together on, because it's my problem. So thank you all so much, beautiful souls. It is such a honor for me to be with all of you, and please think about this topic and how it is applicable in your life and how do you handle it. And next week when we come back, please have something to share, because I may call upon you to share something if you're available and ready to share.
Hey Veda, there was a question in the chat. I don't know, obviously can't answer it, but iPhone says, should we tolerate someone committing violence against someone that we could prevent by our actions? I know it goes into the next week's topic, but
Yes. Intolerance is a big thing in the world, and tolerance is a big misunderstood thing in the world, because we decide what we want to tolerate and what we're not. It's very subjective, and how to find the balance between the subjective and the objective and the absolute. So thank you all so much.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna, I want you to meet Sattva Devi from the Ghent, the new center. She's listening. Tolerated my daughter bring me to this beautiful center here.